Welcome to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Today, I am here with a good friend, Louise Edlund, and it's very interesting how we came to meet, and it's part of what entitled this podcast episode. Even her being on this episode today is a result of synchronicity, as is our meeting and our deeper connection. And we're going to go into our story together. But Louise is, and what I love about our story together is we met really on a friendship level, a deep heart-to-heart soul level. We didn't even really talk about our work. And then someone else was like, you should have Louise on your podcast. I'm like, amazing. I don't even really know what she does. But she calls herself a Celtic celestial advisor. And of course, me as well, having a Celtic past life and a Druid past life, and Louise shares similar lineage and roots from, I'm sure, this life as well as past lives in terms of your bloodline and your family line. And so I'm so excited for today's episode because we're really going to go into the magic and the mystery and the beauty of life and how it's really all here and available for you to enjoy right now. And so thank you for being here, Louise. Welcome. And I'd love you to introduce yourself a bit more as well.
So nice to be introduced here by Nikki. It's been utter magic to even be in her world and be here together and be sharing with all of your magic, because we all know how connected we all are. So how to introduce myself? I always love this question, and I get really playful. I work with a lot of creative thinkers, and what I love about that is nobody needs things to be defined. And that allows for so much space for play and exploration of who we are. But usually we have to pick some kind of titles, right? For people to somehow put the unexplainable, the ineffable into something that we can understand. And so I've been playing around with that. The Celtic part being from my roots, from Scotland, although I spent most of my life trying to get away from Scotland, away from the wisdom of my ancestors, traveling the world. So I really love to put that in there, because it really reminds me of where I'm from. That really helps me on my path of where I'm going. And I put in the celestial part there because we're also earthly and we're also mysterious and unknown. You know, we know that most of our reality is actually unknown matter. We don't know what it is. And I just find that such a fascinating thing. So my title that I've used is really for me to remember certain things about my life, remember where I'm come from, remember the Celtic wisdom, remember the celestial, remember the unknown, remember the playfulness of existence and what we are, and the advisor, because somehow that's where life has placed me. And how I actually got into what I'm doing was people coming to me and asking me for my guidance on things. I'm like, okay, sure. If you want, I'm available. And that's a snippet of my world and who I am.
Beautiful. And it's so beautiful just listening to just a short, brief introduction of yourself. In this life, I feel that my work has brought me back to my roots as well, through the Colombian shamanic healer lineage, and for you, the Celtic. And similarly, I traveled all around the world, left my place of birth, and found myself now here in Ibiza. And part of what helped to activate synchronicity in my life were those travels where I booked one-way tickets. I had no idea what my plan was. And I started to attune to the signals of the universe, of life, as to where to go next, what to do next, what decisions to make next. And I feel like that's how you came into my life. You know, we met briefly. Then I went to just swim at the sea, and there you were at sunset. And we're like, oh, let's go to the beach tomorrow. And then we keep being brought back to each other's life because the universe is doing it. We're not even like calling to be like, hey, you want to hang out? Even though we did the next day after the beach. But it's like people are just like, oh, okay, both of you connect. And so it is the path of least resistance when it's the synchronicity. And I feel like it is the language of the universe. It is the quantum, the universe, God, your guides, however you want to relate to the more of all that is co-creating life with you and for you. And I feel that it is the synchronicity that is how you're being spoken to in response to your prayers, your desires, what it is you're wanting to create, manifest, do, be, have, in alignment with your ultimate potential and blueprint.
I love the way that you say that. It's so beautiful. And yeah, the least resistance part, it really is so fascinating. I always think to myself, it makes no sense at all for me to be doing the type of work that I'm doing with the type of people that I work with. I work with a lot of really well-known icons. Everyone's an icon in their own right, but somehow people love to know who you work with. And people ask so many questions like, how did you get there? How do you have no energy really in your social media following? How does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. How did you get there? And it's really what Nikki is saying here. I literally just listened to the way the universe was communicating with me and telling me to go to certain places where I'd meet a certain person, and everything would just naturally flow and align. There is, of course, a level of resistance within the ease, which I always like to say. You know, one thing I always find is that when I'm really getting placed into a growth portal, the synchronicity starts showing up, and so does my resistance. So does my mind coming up with the reasons why I shouldn't follow the synchronicities, because usually they're so obscene, they're illogical, they make no sense. And the mind is always trying to override in those moments where I'm just at that growth zone and suddenly it doesn't want to follow the magic. And I want to add that in there because there will be moments where the synchronicities feel so curveball, so obscene that it makes no sense to follow it. And yet you're going to follow it.
Yeah. And let's define synchronicity for those who may not really know what it is. So I like to say that synchronicity are signs, symbols, sequence of events, repeating patterns, repeating information that are cluing you into a decision. So for example, I had synchronistic events bring me to move to Ibiza after I was living in my dream life, my dream home in Malibu. There was literally no reason for me to think to move. Like I had achieved what I wanted to achieve, living my dream, living my goal. And so one night, it was as the pandemic was ending, a friend was like, hey, do you want to go see Jamie Jones play in LA? And I was like, yeah, we haven't been out to dance in so long. And I was like, yeah, let's go. We go. It ended up being a really small venue. And so we were next to the DJ booth, connected with his manager. And he just happened to be like, yeah, we live in Ibiza. And I was like, all year round? And he's like, yeah, people are there all year round. And I was like, huh. He's like, yeah, it's a really spiritual place. And I'm like, huh? Ibiza? Because I had been there and been to Ibiza well before my spiritual awakening. Ibiza has always been a big catalyst for my transformation. It was the place I took my one-way ticket when I left Western medicine, but I didn't know I was leaving yet. And so here I was feeling this curiosity to go and see it again. And even though it was like she said, it's absurd. Like, why would I go to Ibiza? I'm living oceanfront Malibu. Like, why would I do that? And sure enough, I said, okay, let me go check it out because it sounds like the people that have moved there from around the world, like there's something happening. I feel an energy. So I arrived and I never left. So that was 2 years ago. And so it's so important because, you know, and I have so many stories of, you know, I've talked about synchronicity when I went to visit Dom and her, and how like literally all these events started happening and getting canceled so that I could go to spend time in Dom and her, which is a big part of my spiritual path. And so where have you had synchronistic events or signs or messages that you haven't fully honored or followed, or that are presenting to you now? And maybe you want to share some crazy examples of some of your synchronicities that have happened.
Yeah, there's so many synchronicities. We all have so many beautiful stories on that. I love to share this particular one because I think it's so wild and it touches upon the audacity and the boldness that is often asked for us to actually get to where we want to go by following these breadcrumbs. Golden breadcrumbs are the signs. So this was around 2020, 2021. It was just after, well, the global event. And I had a very in-person only business at that time. And that just got paused. And for the foreseeable, I didn't know how many years this was going to go on for or not. And I really felt this calling that I had to make a real pivotal shift in my whole life and what I'm doing. And I went to Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations and I just went fully in. And he says to ask for a sign that leaves you with no doubt that you're on the right track. And so I fell in, because that's what he teaches, right? You feel that reality and you don't get too caught up in the mind or the details. And I would feel this reality and I would feel these people that were somehow coming into my world for me to work with. And I didn't know who and I didn't know what. And one day I had signs start to pop up. I had Justin Bieber popping up on like my algorithm, which is curious. I'm a little too old to be a believer. And I was like, oh, okay. And it just kept popping up. I'm like, wait, I think there's something here. And I was like, don't do that. This is self-sabotage to the max. This is the new lows. Don't you dare talk yourself into this rabbit hole of sabotage. But I took a moment and I was like, do you know what? I'm going in. Because I never really liked to listen to the rules anyway, even my own imposed ones. And I went down this rabbit hole and I ended up finding his documentary that just came through again. The algorithm then started to support me. It's like, okay, you're digging the Bieber, here's some more stuff. And I watched this documentary and I had tears and I was like, oh my God, it's him. This is who I'm supposed to be working with, people like Justin Bieber. And suddenly, like, my whole world just changed. I really felt these multiple timelines coming in. And I would tell some friends, I was like, you just won't believe it, but I know this is the direction my life's supposed to go. I'm supposed to change everything that I'm doing. And people were like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, are you actually okay? They were like, okay, I know you're pretty out there, Louise, but come on. But the funny thing was, I was at dinner at the marina in Santa Eulalia in Ibiza, telling this story to some of my skeptical friends. And this yacht pulled in, not with Justin Bieber on it, but they were playing Justin Bieber's songs. Like, I get my life right from the source, yeah. Oh, that's it. I was like, oh my God, see the signs. And these signs kept on leading me, but literally the thoughts are like, you're crazy, this is too far. But I kept on following these signs. And literally a few days later, after I declared I'm supposed to be working with people in Hollywood, massive platforms of impact. I'm supposed to be impacting millions and millions of people, but just through a few people. I got a phone call from an acquaintance that connected me. They were like, I just think you're going to be a great coach for the sister of my business partner. I didn't know at the time that the sister of her business partner was a Hollywood actress. And this came in so fast and so aligned. And the synchronicity kept on showing up in my life until I found someone who I met on this summit. And we became friends when we were having lunch. And so we went into YSL and there was this dress. And the shopkeeper said, Hailey Bieber wore this dress. And my friend said, oh my God, Hailey Bieber. I work with Hailey Bieber. I work with Justin Bieber. I know them. I was like, what? I'm so close now to this strange synchronicity. It's giving me evidence, right? And that's what we have to do. We have to collect evidence because we're always looking for evidence for or against where we're going. Collecting the evidence. Okay, I'm not crazy. This is leading me somewhere amazing and I don't know where it is. We ended up creating a really beautiful relationship, and over the last year, things have been really evolving and growing, and she's asking me to come into her business for this really amazing project. I can't share details yet. Jenny, you guys feel a bit protective about things until it's actually like contract done, everything done, but I will share another time. I'm like, what? This strange synchronicity is still giving, and it's not what I'm imagining. Maybe it never leads to him, maybe it does, but somehow the sign's leading me to exactly the right people so that I can really lean in and trust my evolution and my expansion and what I'm doing. So that's the fun one that I like to put because it's wild. And guess what? Your wild ones are there too. And they're like, wait, is this? Can I just go all in? Go all in.
Yeah, and I love us sharing this because even when Louise and I were laying on the beach just as friends, we decided to play a fun game of share all the stories about all the synchronicities that have happened to you on Ibiza, because there are certain places on the planet where it's even stronger. So there are certain power points on the planet, and I feel that Ibiza is a power point because it's the second most magnetic place secondary to the North Pole, and it's on this crystal rock bed, so it has a lot of fascinating energy properties. So I do feel that there's special things that happen on this island. And so the more you seek something, the more you find it. We have something in our brain called the reticular activating system, and essentially it's the part of the brain that's seeking, and what you seek, you find. So if you simply open to receive or decide and declare, like, show me the synchronicities, I choose to follow them. And actually in our bonus content, Louise is going to be guiding us through a synchronicity activation that she calls Synchronicity Awakened. And it's like a 15-minute process. So I highly invite you to go and experience that if you find that you're not as in flow with the universe or the synchronistic events around you, or that you think like, I don't see them, because guess what? They're always there. It's just, are you open and available to see them? And it's a perfect way to guide your life. And I feel like this is leading us into our next topic, which is about enjoying life on the journey to the arrival of your ultimate goals and dreams. Because if you're like us, you are a forever creator. You're a prolific creator. And as you create and achieve one thing, you're going to go on to the next thing. And some things may happen in a longer timeline than others. And so even Louise planted that seed to work with the Biebers, or people like the Biebers, but it seems like there is a timeline where she will work with them. But she didn't sit around like, oh no, I haven't worked with them yet, I'm failed. Like, it's more about like, can I enjoy life on the process to my ultimate highest timeline? And that's actually the secret sauce to collapsing time and it happening faster, because then you're in an energy of abundance. And it's like she's still attracting in the Hollywood actors. And even similarly, like I was still enjoying life in Malibu without knowing I would be taken to another timeline in Ibiza. And even here, it's like I'm manifesting this incredible home to have retreats and host all these events, and it hasn't yet happened, but I'm still enjoying all the beautiful places that I'm living on the island, and I'm getting to know the island even more. And so where in your life might you be not in the highest vibration and frequency, maybe even in a little scarcity, lack, complaining because you're not yet there? But look around you and what have you already achieved? What is already happening that's a success that you can celebrate? And may that be the springboard from when it's like, oh, yeah, like I can be so grateful for this. And then boom, the next thing comes in because you're in that frequency of bliss and joy and enjoying life.
So amazing. I really love that. And what I've learned from my own personal experience, and what I also notice in clients is that, of course, you see in others what you see in yourself. So I really see this in me is my biggest buzzkill to my vibration is the energy of expectation. And it's such a delicate dance because I really feel to be in the center of the polarities. I think there is a dance here because there is something quite powerful about, yeah, of course, I expect it. I expect this to happen, which is a little bit different from like, why isn't this here now? I want it to look like that, and I want it to be now. There's a slight different energy to that. And how I have personally overcome this is being really playful and letting go with how I think things should be. For instance, how I feel I get a lot of playfulness out of this Bieber synchronicity that's obviously been going on for years. Is I am like, I don't know where this is leading. And actually, I think it's best I don't know where it's leading, because my mind is going to create, like we know, it's going to create something that I'm familiar with from the past. But I really believe this is going to be so much bigger than I can possibly imagine for myself. I'm not like, give me it. Give me it. I want it. I want it now. Why is it not here? Which is that impatient energy, which makes us feel that we've never arrived in pieces and patterns of lack. No matter how much wealth, how much success, how much everything, when we're feeling that we haven't arrived, we are in a state of lack.
Yeah, and it's really an art to continue to allow yourself to desire and reach and create goals, and because it's a forever journey, while still being fully present here and now, content, happy, fulfilled, comfortable, enjoying the abundance. And it's this dance to have it all, be grateful to have it all, and then still want more, and know that it's okay. Because I know for me, a lot of clients, even one of my first women programs, a lot of the marketing voice was around like, you should be happy with everything you have, but deep down, you know, there's more for you. Like, that's okay. That's great. The key is the gratitude and the enjoyment of the moment. And that is the space from which all the bucket list goals and even the wild dreams that seem like that people are people policing you and being like, you can't have that. Like, that's crazy. Like, you should just be happy where you are. Like, you don't need to go create a bigger business or like move to a different country or go across the world. And but like, yeah, you do. Like, yeah. I'm such a believer, now I'm thinking like believer. I'm such a believer. I'm a believer in really supporting people to live that ultimate potential. And I'm so grateful when I meet friends and then ultimately colleagues like Louise, because we kind of both moved to Ibiza and like we're living our best life and then supporting others to do that too. And we still both have like a massive dreams, visions, and goals. And who knows, like maybe we're meant to collaborate and the universe keeps being like, here, come together, you know? And I just think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. I really like how you say about people's maybe views or opinions on how big we should go. And I know this is such a thing for people at like a certain level in their success, is they'll often share back like they have to switch down the gears in order to work with their team because they move so fast no one can keep up. And so usually there's not a space for them to explore, well, what if more and more and more and more and more? And that's why I really love synchronicities and working with the language of the universe as well, because if we do the work, Nikki was talking about the part of the brain that's constantly seeking, and we know that we're seeking either evidence for what we want or evidence to suggest, no, we're not worthy or whatever of what we want. And so there's a balance of doing the inner work to make sure that we are hearing, because the universe sometimes speaks through people, right? We want to hear the messages that are actually aligning us to our evolution on our path. And there will be voices of doubt that's usually, right, reflecting our voices of doubt. And we've got to keep listening for the signs and the synchronicities and the messages through people that really hit us and give us that energy of like, yes, this is fueling me, as opposed to crashing.
Yeah, and I feel like what you're speaking to is The things that are meant for us are the things that light us up and give us energy. And oftentimes where people also block themselves is connected to fear of things that have happened in the past that didn't quite go right or the way they wanted. So then they think, oh, well, it must not work. And that's not true. Like, there's no such thing as a failure. I do believe that we're constantly being redirected by the universe to try a different configuration. And maybe it didn't work like that because that way wasn't sustainable. And it's so important to continue to do that clearing work to shed the disappointment when the expectations weren't met, and really trusting that however things have played out have only been in support of our greatest becoming. And that is a mindset, because any form of shame, guilt, resentment, regret is going to keep us in a lower vibration that is not opening our field up to the miracles and the more of all that is, and these synchronicities that are sometimes quietly being whispered. But what I do really trust is, like, it will get in your face. Like, literally you'll hear it 3 times. And then it's like, okay, maybe I should listen now because I heard it 3 times. And so wherever your intuition is nudging you, go with that. Like, even today I was guided to go live and I'm like, well, what am I going to talk about? And nothing was coming up, but it was like, go live, go live. So I went live and I was like, well, I don't really know what I'm supposed to talk about. So I'm just going to see what comes up, because I am sure there was someone in the field that needed to hear me go live to then go into a course or work with me one-to-one or whatever. But those little nudges of like, well, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. Why would I go live? I don't have anything planned. It's like, that's not the point. It's like the action, like moving forward is taking one step in front of the other. So where are you being guided, or even having these little intuitive drops of like, bring your laptop to this place, or I don't know, like, you get those little nudges.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I even once had a time, and I often share this one because it was so absurd, where I was coming home from Pilates and I had a full car of groceries and it was telling me to go to a cafe to have lunch. And I was looking for a spot to have an event. And it turns out I went, had lunch, and as I was about to finish, a guy sat down in front of me along with a group of people. They were all together, and I went to get up because I was kind of like, I wasn't part of their friend group. And they're like, no, you can stay here. I got to talking. He lived on land with a mother tree that was perfect for the event that I was having, because it was about the communication with the plant kingdom, and we needed a mother tree for it. And I was like, can't even make this up. Like, I would have never went. Like, I'm like, my groceries are going to go bad in the car, but I went. And it helped everything unfold so beautifully.
Like, it didn't make sense, right? You're saying the groceries are in the back. It's inconvenient. And that's the courage and the boldness that we need to have to go with that crazy intuitive nudge.
Absolutely. So Louise, where can people find you if they want to connect with you deeper and learn more about what you do and all of your magic and wisdom?
I love to create experiences for people to get an idea in the unspoken realm. So I have done various different activations. They're available on my website under free gifts. The link will be posted there, and also on my Instagram, Louise Cameron Edlund. They're my best to keep connected, coming into my vortex, into my energy and experience, right? Because like a lot of the magical things in life, like yourselves, it's hard to explain who we are, but it's easy to feel who we are.
Beautiful. Yes. And the bonus will be one of those beautiful gifts and activations. So you can receive that there. And we thank you so much for being here today, Louise. This is such a gift.
Thank you for bringing us all together.
Yes. And thank you all for being here. We will see you next time on the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. And bye for now.
Before bye, leave me some DMs on Instagram or wherever to let me know your experience of Synchronicity Awakened. That's one of my favorite parts, to get to understand your world.
Yes. Beautiful. Share your comments. Share your comments on this page as well as you listen to the podcast. We love to hear from you. Take this, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content. And remember, every Monday, the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the ascension path with me and for doing this great work.